It's bath time, friend.
When it comes to online animation, the conversation often begins and ends with Hello Boss and the Amazing Digital Circus. But when you dive deeper, you can find some uncut gems. There's everything from Subway sandwich mascots, clowns that run a burger truck, to even today's subject, a girl that can understand cats, better known as Ollie Scoops if you actually read the title. Oh. Okay. This beloved cartoon is a dedicated fan base and star-studded cast that makes you point at the screen and go, wait a minute, I recognize them. So join me, Ryan, as I talk with Nico Colaleo about his show and past works, and an update about this perfect series. Perfect with P-U-R-R, like a cat. Nico Colaleo, or Nico, if you're on a first name basis, was born March 15th, 1985 in Los Angeles. However, he grew up in Tucson, Arizona, where he attended grade school and college. While he's known for creating animated shows, you'd be aghast to find out that his first series was a public access TV show? I'm aghast. Happy Hour was a 13-episode show from 2003 to 2008 starring himself, his brother, and Matt Braley. No, not Matt Brawley of Amphibia fame, just another Disney animator that shares the same name, but different spelling. Despite the show ending long ago, he thankfully saved all the episodes, transitioning from VHS to digital media. No lost tapes here, baby. With this show, it taught him everything. Writing, directing, to even editing. The latter he'd find a passion for and pursue in his later years. Moving back to Los Angeles in 2008, he found himself working odd jobs like retail and restaurants, which really wasn't as odd as I first wrote in the script. It wasn't like normal jobs. Anything. But it was at one fateful party, he ran into a producer at Tidmouse, and there he landed his first industry job editing on Randy Cunningham, 9th Grade Ninja. And the thing to know is that Nico himself is a 2D artist, however he doesn't consider himself an animator. While he has created some works in the past, he prides himself more as an editor, even attending film college rather than drawing college. Drawing, not film. While he's been an editor on the scene for many years, he's been pitching for just as long. In fact, one of his earliest public concepts would be Squirrel and Scarfy. However, outside some drawings here and there, not much would be produced.
That was just about a year or two after I moved here, and I was like, well, if I'm going to pitch to studios or if I'm going to make my own thing one day, I got to come up with some characters. So just randomly drawing one day, and then, I don't know, my roommate and I were talking about like hipsters. I mean, that was sort of a, we're talking like late 2000s hipsters when that word started getting used a whole bunch. And so I was just like, oh, there's a special kind of hipster, in Silver Lake here in Los Angeles. So I was just drawing a bunch of random girls, and I really liked two of them, and I thought started thinking of ideas for them. I wanted to make cartoons with them, but then tried my hand at doing web comics with them, just that only lasted a short time. It was just really tough to keep up with it and a day job. Scribble and Scarfy were my first animated characters that were pretty developed.
If you recognize his name, you might know him from his prior work before Ollie Scoops, that being too loud. There was once a time when Peacock Kids, a DreamWorks TV subsidiary, produced animation online. Okay, they still do, but it's weird storytime animations now? What is this? His friend Matt did a short term for them and convinced Nico to pitch to them. And so they're looking for a show for kids, on YouTube, and something that's around 5 minutes in length. Of the 3 ideas, Too Loud was accepted.
2 big-headed, loud-mouthed kids getting into hijinks working at a library.
Is the long line for the series that will last between 2017 and 2019.
Jeffrey's giant tongue has such advanced taste buds, he can read each visitor's library record just by licking their card.
You're all set, sir. Oh, and you also have an overdue copy of Dorian Gray. Please return that on your next visit, too.
The show's first season did extremely well, with each episode around 300k per episode, and Snowed In hitting over 5.5 million views? That's pretty cool. This prompted DreamWorks to renew the show for one more season. So, 16 episodes total. Kelsey Abbott would voice Sarah, Nico would voice her brother Jeffrey throughout the series. And looking at the credits, you'll notice a familiar name.
I was looking for animators for Too Loud. We were gearing up. I knew a lot of designers and board artists, but I didn't know too many animators. And then I just happened to find, I don't remember if someone showed me or if I just stumbled upon Viv's work, but I just saw that she could animate amazingly, and she was living on the East Coast at the time, and I just reached out and said, would you want to have time? Do you work on my thing? And she said, sure. So she worked on those first 6 episodes of season 1, online friends, then we became real life friends. She visited here a couple times before she made the big move, but then she finally moved out here. So besides being voicing, a character in Ollie and Scoops, she's way too busy to take on freelance work right now. Sometimes she'll work on my stuff at this point in Too Loud animating working for Ollie and Scoops, voice work and some occasional writing work and stuff like that. But then I'll do stuff for her. I edited like the first Hell of a Boss and, Has Been. I'm always a big supporter. So we dabble in each other's stuff too.
However, the show would only last 2 seasons, with essentially being an indefinite hiatus. Though if you want to watch the show in high quality, you should check out the video page, which also includes the credits to everyone who worked on it. Alright, hold on. I still got like one more little thing before I get into the Ollie Scoop stuff. Alright, is that good? If you have heard about the series before this video, you might know it from its transgender episode. It's a story where Jeffrey goes to a girls' night slumber party with his sister and finds out more about his identity.
Yeah, I would always get really bummed and be like, oh yeah, it's a girls' weekend or whatever. It's like, oh. And then I would see like Instagram pictures afterward and I would just be like, these are all my friends. Like, I know I'm not invited. I feel really left out. And, they didn't mean to, but what can you do? It's girls weekend. But, I kind of like thought, oh, hey, maybe an interesting story. It starts off like the tired trope. I have to dress up like a girl in disguise to infiltrate the girls' slumber party and do whatever, I need to do. The first half of the episode starts off like that. And then I was like, oh, and then Jeffrey's like in the disguise, like he's having a blast. He's like really connecting with everyone. And then suddenly feeling something's been awakened. And then like they realize that like, oh, like I might be like not who I thought I was, and then go from there. I ran it by 5 different trans friends until they all like were like, this is perfect. Like I can't see anybody nitpicking this. Speaking as my trans friends, they said if I was a kid and I saw this cartoon, like I would have felt really awesome. DreamWorks execs, they were just like, as long as you do it right, like we're not going to butt in. Half of the execs like were in tears. They said they loved it.
No, you don't understand. I feel really good. Like as a girl. I feel like myself. Is that weird?
No, not weird at all. Plus, now I get a sister.
With the show concluding, Nico would think about other ideas he's had on the back burner, and running through the pages, he wanted to revisit, well, Ollie Scoops. What's interesting about this show is that the idea started all the way back in 2014 as a pitch to Nickelodeon, and essentially, the network wants this in a pitch. You first gotta have a dynamic like SpongeBob and Patrick. If they're a human, they must be a kid. And if they're an animal, they must have a childlike outlook. That's it. That's everything. But Nico had also pitched the Cartoon Network, Netflix, Man of the Networks. However, when he pitched the series, he was turned down. So when Too Loud ended in 2019, he wanted to take another crack at this old series. And since pitching didn't work, he's like, what if I just make this myself? Like an indie cartoon. A lot of the crew from Too Loud would carry over. Though I should mention now, this is an online-only production. Okay, apart from the voice actors recording IRL, but you get what I mean.
That's a big reason why things can look so different between shots, is that if you're not with the animator, it's kind of, it can be hard. If there's something really specific I want, like a certain facial expression, or like something like acting, or like hand with their hands or something like that, I'll like video myself and send it to them. But most of the time, I'm just saying, follow the boards and don't go too nuts. But if you have an idea or something funny you want to add in there during the, in between the poses, run it by me. They run by their rough animation by me. So, if I don't like something, once in a while, someone will go a little too much. And I'm like, tone it down just a little. That's a little too nuts. But yeah, they'll share their rough animation with me, and then I'll just give them notes and fine tune it. And then the cleanup artist will clean up what they drew.
Let me see. This is definitely a good one for the yearbook.
If you notice on screen, the designs of Ollie Scoops would drastically change. This is thanks to his friend Natasha Weir, who also serves as the series' character designer. Rather than keeping everything directly on model, Nico likes to have imperfections, the artist's personal touch to each scene. Think of it like those old Bugs Bunny cartoons that when you watch it, you can go like, oh, well, it's that guy. Is that person this person animating? I can tell. One of the more notable animators would be that Azuro. Someone who frequently animated within the indie scene has been mentioned on my channel like a lot. And if you're enjoying the video so far, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment on, I don't know, my cat? I mean, look at him. While VisiPop would not return as an animator,
Guess she was busy with Aspen Hotel.
she did return as a voice actor. Speaking of, I alluded to this before, but there's a big who's of voice acting. Starting with Hollywood people, the main character Ollie is voiced by Twin Peaks star Kimmy Robertson. Scoops is voiced by Eric Baza, who's known for voicing the majority of the Looney Tunes cast. Craig McCracken, Dana Snyder, and even Mara Wilson would also make appearances. This would be due to Nico's connections and friendships he's made along the way, even almost getting another famous voice. However, he sadly can't do that anymore.
I'm a huge Pee-wee fan. I'm a big Elvira fan, and Cassandra Peterson, who plays Elvira, and Paul Rubens, they were best friends in real life. And I think besides an Elvira episode or something, like they never did anything together. They were never like in each other's thing. I mean, they were like maybe none of those characters anyway. I was like, they rarely get to work on stuff at the same time. And I was like, I just had an idea where like Ollie and Scoops get wrapped up in the cat public access scene. And then they get their own show and they become like a really popular show or something. And I was gonna ask Paul and Cassandra both to be their executives, like their bosses pretty much, who had like ulterior motives and they were gonna turn out to be the villains of the episode. But now without Paul, like I'm sure it can still work. It's just like I have to retool it, I guess. But that's, there's a scoop on an upcoming episode plot.
But on to the internet celebrities, and you might recognize two main recurrent voices, that being Red Letter Media's Mike Solaxa, as well as Rich Evans.
Most of them I just write them and ask them, like the Angry Video Game Nerd, I'll just write to them and ask, like, you want to be in this? And, most of the time if they have kids, most of the time, I've never gotten a no. I've gotten yeses from everyone I've asked, so that's nice. I had Rich Evans in Too Loud. Then I just reached out to him. When Too Loud Season 2 came along, Mike was like, hey, he wrote to me, and he was like, hey, I see you have Rich Evans in your cartoons. Like, I want to voice act. Can you put me in the cartoon too? Like, whatever character, I'll do it. And he's like, I want to beef up my voice acting reel and everything. So, I put him in Too Loud. And then when Ollie and Scoops came around, purposely, I came up with two characters just for them that they're, are a duo, and, Brunk and Merle, and that's them. I've had both of them, Rich and Mike, do other voices besides their main ones. And a lot of it's just reaching out to them and asking them.
Yeah, give us all your cash.
And all these appearances simply just being results of asking. I get that a lot whenever I do these interviews, like,
How does he get all these interviews?
do you want to know the secret? Do you want to come a little closer? Do you want to know the secret? I just asked. For recording the voice actors, he uses a 6-point harness. An animation studio that's a wonderfully nice sound booth. A typical episode costs around $25,000 to $30,000 depending on the length. This is obviously due to the voice actors and, production team for the episodes. Aside from editing, which he does himself.
Most episodes just come from funny stories from real life, or inspired by them anyway. I'll write an outline, then I'll workshop it with my friend Matt or a couple other friends. Eventually we'll write a script, finalize the script, punch up all the gags, make it as good as possible, record the voice actors. I'm the editor, so I edit out all the best takes from the records. I have a board artist to draw usually two, they split an episode. 2 board artists drawing the panels. I throw the panels together with the voices, make the animatic, put in sound effects and music. So it's a finished cartoon, just needing the animation. It's just all in still pictures at this phase. I assign 10 different animators. I assign them all maybe 10 shots, 12 shots each. They all animate it, clean it up, color, and then I do the final post editing, throw in some last sound effects like footsteps. And if you're hearing footsteps, those are pretty much the last things that go in, is like little tiny sound effects like that, and that's it. Finished cartoon.
From 2019 to 2023, 10 episodes to be produced, with one quickie being made. While he has posted these on YouTube, the goal he has is something larger. The difficult thing about having high quality animation is how much it costs. Well, duh. So unless you have a way to offset a lot of production, time between episodes would be massive, and this can cause a lot of fan base to not stick around as the days go by. While working his day job as an animation editor, he chipped away these 10 episodes as well as the Christmas songs over the years, and watching all of it now, it's a nice narratively driven series. While the episodes can be watched out of order, it's best to watch straight through to see the consistent timeline. Also make sure to keep an eye out for Easter eggs, like seeing Ding Dong and Julian of Wan Wan Games in the background for one of these episodes. But the goal of producing this series online is not to keep producing it online. Does it make sense? So what is he aiming to do with this? Well, pitch it, of course. While he's had the characters in the back burner before, taking time to make cartoons, see fan feedback motivated him to keep pitching. You see, having numbers behind an idea as well as visuals for it can reassure the executives what you're made of. And the idea that he has experience of making episodes at lower costs, something studios do consider, every little bit counts when it comes to pitching. Thus far, he's been chatting with Nick, Cartoon Network, Netflix, and many others, with all of them piquing an interest. Much in the case of Hazbin Hotel being recognized online, producers are keeping an eye on the internet. See my video about how Long Gone Gold almost got a show. Since creating the show, Nico's been nominated for an Emmy for editing, as well as winning the Best Protagonist for the Toonies 2023. For his character Ollie from Ollie Scoops. Hey, that's what this video's about. It's also funny the fact that the Emmy nomination happened just before this video, just right before it happened. Also note that producers love awards. People love winners, and he's sure doing that.
Think Julia Goldberger's been Student of the Month enough?
Yeah, I guess you could say she's an overachiever. She just really loves our school, you know?
And for fan feedback, I asked my audience what they thought of the show, and they'll be read out by valentinebabeVA. Thanks.
I absolutely adore the 90s Nickelodeon vibe it has going.
They're pretty interesting to look at, and it's like 2000s and 2010s Cartoon Network TV shows on television.
Ollie Scoops is a really great show. Great animation, and there's some great stuff in there, like the actors and the story. Although I can tell when a scene switches to another animator, but that doesn't change my thoughts on the show. I really enjoy it, and I'm glad it's on YouTube. There's a lot of good animated shows on YouTube to find, but sometimes a few of them feel a little the same. It's not inherently a bad thing, but Ollie Scoops does stand out from the show feeling like an early 2000s cartoon. It's very charming.
Well, Scoop says that my funny faces aren't funny enough and that his faces are better.
They are better. I make the faciest faces that ever faced. You need to...
In the meantime, to supplement the funds of the show, rather than a Kickstarter, he's actually teaching an online class about pitching.
I found another way to kind of make funds the last couple months, but kind of teaching. I've been doing like a pitching to studios class, and like 100 plus people reached out, which was really cool.
While he is pitching the studios, he'll still be making episodes here and there. With indie animation, unless you're fully delved into the scene, it's really hard to get returns on your yields unless you have supplemental income. The only two teams able to do this would be Glitch Productions as well as Help a Boss, either in having a second channel entirely or just lots of merch sales. And of course, the former having extremely successful new pilots hitting over 70 million views, but that's for another video another time. Oh wait, 100 million views? Oh fuck. However, when it comes to creating an online show, no one person has the same goal. So to generalize compare indie shows is a tad bit silly. Like a Hydrogen Bomb and Coughing Baby, on a statistical level it's clear who will win, but that doesn't determine quality. And I have to reiterate that producing online is not a competition. As pitting shows against each other does nothing but divide the fan bases. Like people comparing Lackadaisy to Help a Boss, both internally audience-wise, something like animation should bring folks together. And with a show like Ollie Scoops, it's like no other. With every line being drawn, every scene painted with love, what more can you ask for with a show like that?
I always have the best advice I ever got. It's just make stuff. It's as simple as that. Whether you have $5 or $5,000, just make stuff the best you can. And just keep making stuff. It's easier now more than ever with iPhones. You don't need equipment. You don't need a camera. You don't need a mic. Film it, a whole thing with your phone now. It's way easier than it was when I was doing VHS tape-to-tape stuff, you know, in the late 90s and stuff like that. And even then, it wasn't that hard. It was working with tapes and VCRs and stuff. It's the same thing with Happy Hour and everything. We just made stuff. You know, even a year later, I might look back just a year later and cringe at what we made, but you know, every single thing that you make, you get better, and it helps teach you comedy timing and writing and editing timing. Also cutting stuff. That's a huge thing I've learned, especially since coming out to LA, is don't write too much, don't have too much. Even if you really love something, if you really love a scene, or you know, we call it killing babies, you got to be up for, if it's not needed, you got to cut it. You got to get rid of it, even if you love it. If it's going to make the entire thing as a whole better, you need to be able to let go and cut it. And that's how I've saved a lot of ideas, is by there was way too much, and the more we cut, the better it got. The more you make, the more stuff you learn. Always be creative and always be making stuff. That's my advice.
If I'm overdoing it with these corn jokes, I should probably just can it. Oh yeah, baby.
Hey, come on, you're gonna break it.
You've got to be kidding me. You've made it to the end of this video. If you loved it, you should like, subscribe, comment, all those fun things you can do. Maybe even check out this video right here, or this one. Maybe even my animated show, Sold as JJ. But you can't stay here. You gotta like, go do something else. Like one of the things I told you about right now.